cemetery. That was the basis of the original police sketch. And these men identified, Sloan identified Hauptmann, and Condon finally, after the trial, identified Hauptmann. So we didn't identify him before the trial. That's another story we'll get into very much. But the funny thing is, Sloan and Condon identified 6 different people from photographs as being the man before they finally arrested Hauptmann. Colonel Breckenridge, who was Lindbergh's confidant and a former Assistant Secretary of War, Lindbergh and Breckenridge said it would be a good idea if Breckenridge were to, he had an office in Manhattan, if Breckenridge were to come back here every night, sleep here with Condon, to see if anything was going to happen, like if any messages were going to be delivered, if any strange people were going to come around. Also, they weren't positive about Condon. Keep an eye on the old man, you know.
Didn't we have people in
That's next on the script. That's okay. It's okay. The FBI stationed people in houses across the street to spy on Condon. See what was going on.
Well, what was the link to the case? It wasn't a federal crime. It was just that J. Edgar Hoover wanted to get involved because he wanted the spotlight. That was the only thing.
It was the federal without the word federal.
It was the Bureau of Investigation. Yeah. So there was no federal crime involved yet.
Oh, the gold notes.
The extortion, maybe. The gold notes. All right. Yeah.
So,
Which would have been Treasury, not his bureau.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Where was I?
FBI across the street.
FBI was across the street, and Breckenridge once noted that a knife sharpener came to the door one day. You know, he was calling out and gets out of the truck, and he rang the bell. And he said, "You need any knives sharpened?" And Condon said, "No." Okay, and he walked off, and he didn't stop at any other houses. Then there was somebody else who was in some sort of needle salesman who pulled the same thing. Now these may have been lookouts. These may have been people working with the kidnap gang.
Or they could have been reporters. Some people think it could have been reporters.
Could have been reporters. That's another good possibility. So the last thing I want to tell you before we get back to the bus is that Lindbergh came here secretly twice. The first time was when Condon got a package in the mail. When he went to have his first rendezvous at Woodlawn Cemetery with Cemetery John said, "I'll prove to you that we are the kidnappers by virtue of sending you the baby sleeping suit." So they sent it, and when Condon got it in the mail, he and Breckenridge called Lindbergh and said, "Get over here. Is this the baby sleeping suit?" So he snuck out in disguise, and probably in an old station wagon or something, and he got past the reporters who were swamping the area, and he came here in the dead of night to identify the sleeping suit. That was the first time. The second time he came here secretly was when it had all been arranged that the money should be ready and waiting for the kidnapper, and they'll contact Lindbergh here and let him know somehow that now is the time to move, take the money, and meet us someplace. Well, they did. They took the money someplace, and they found another note that told them to where to go from there. It was like a scavenger hunt. So Lindbergh came here at about 7 o'clock at night with the money. It was originally $75,000. Came here with the money, and they waited for a sign, a further sign from the kidnappers. And that sign came when another taxi cab driver, help me here, I have a mental block here. The other taxi driver,
who was never identified.
He came, he rang the bell, he spoke to
Myra's
daughter, and had a note that told him where to go to bring the money. And he ran away, and they never got him. So Lindbergh sat here in the front parlor, with the whole Condon family, on pins and needles, and Breckenridge, and Al Reich, his buddy, waiting for that communication. So that was the second time Lindbergh came here secretly.
Richard, what's the duration from the time of the kidnapping to the time the money was going to exchange hands? How
About 2 months. A month. It's
Just
on the
a
back
month?
it's on the back of your. It's on the blue page near the back of your store packet.
April 3rd, I think.
April.
April. Oh, maybe what kind of sleeping suit it was.
Dr. Dent, right?
What kind of sleeping suit it was. That's all it was. What kind of it. You know, if they found the baby with a sleeping suit, that would have meant that this gang was lying, and maybe they wanted
The
to
mother also
kidnap him.
identified sleeping suit.
And another thing that
The mother identified. That's right. Later, the mother did. That's right.
Another
That sleeping
thing
suit was brought back. Yeah.
they were all waiting for the note. Why didn't they grab the cab driver and get the name and address?
Exactly.
He got away.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah, but
But Peroni
They-
grabbed.
Common then to use
Maybe
taxi
he didn't want to
drivers
get involved. Right. Learned
as
later what he did.
messengers? I never, yeah. Was it common? What do you give the guy $1 and tell him to go deliver this?
that's what they said they did.
Well, that's what they say.
Richard, didn't the FBI was the FBI have a search warrant on Condon's house? No. You sure there wasn't a search warrant performed on his house? I read his house was searched.
You read his house was searched?
Yep.
Well,
No.
when they,
I think it was in 1936.
Nobody
when he
ever-
wasn't cooperating. I think they
Oh,
threatened
maybe
him with
later.
that.
I thought actually was,
Maybe.
wasn't it?
He checked his phone, so they would be on the mail.
I'm almost positive his house was
I
searched.
know they dug around his cottage on City Island looking for ransom money.
I'll email him.
Maybe
That
that
I've heard.
I'm
A
almost
lot of
positive
different
his house
sources
was
on that
searched.
one. Yeah.
Okay. Cemetery John was standing behind the fence in the cemetery property. When we get out, we'll talk about it. He was standing behind the fence in the cemetery, and Condon was outside in the little triangle, the little esplanade, so to speak, and spotted him waving a handkerchief, and he went over to him. That scene we can talk about and we can visualize, but that facade is gone. They just took that facade down and they put it here. They told me that this is part of the facade from the 233rd Street entrance. They put it here because they recognize that it.
Well, here we are.
Garage, and people drove by in their cars, and sometimes somebody was buying the paper, must have looked at newsreels or pictures in the paper. I could just hear him say that. And they exchanged. Oh, they had an exchange, and Condon said that he had the money up there with Lindbergh, and Cemetery John said, "Is he armed?" He said, "No." "Well, you got the money?" "I got the money up there, yeah." "You got the baby?" I said, "I told you, I got a note that'll tell you where the baby is. Okay, I'll give you the note. You give me the money. I'll get the note. I'll get the note." Except for that, actually did. But who knows where? Why wouldn't he have written it beforehand? Why would he have? Somebody said, the name, the baby's on the boat, Nellie. Got that from seeing a grave that said Nellie somewhere. I think he had the note already. Come on. Makes sense, doesn't it?
He probably has the note underneath the rock or something. He's going to give him a note to come go to the gravesite and pick up the other note.
He had that note, I'm sure. Anyway, so they came back and they met, and he gave him the note in exchange for the money. Over the bush there. And they went their separate ways. That was it. The same night that
Interested in the case. She's got her own problem. She's been 8 minutes. It would be good to interest somebody in the case.
Good, huh? Kiwi?